Periodic publication. 31st year. Number 120, March 2025. Translator. S. DeepL Translator.
Being yourself.
A great many human beings are not themselves, because they adopt the thoughts, feelings and machinations of others, which causes them to fall prey to anger, joylessness, hatred, grief and worry, etc. Generally, human beings do not understand that when they are bombarded with evil words and actions by others, they absorb them, make them their own, and thus are no longer themselves, but become an image of the person who is causing them harm or suffering in some form. But distance must be kept from this image, because fundamentally the thoughts, feelings and machinations of those who wish harm, evil and damage are not the business of those human beings who are exposed to the attacks, but are solely the business of the ill-wishers, the adversaries and self-proclaimed enemies, etc. And since it is all a matter of opponents, it is imperative that thoughts, feelings, words and machinations etc. generated by opponents are not taken in and made one's own, as unfortunately is often the case, whereby the human being is no longer himself, but becomes an image of the one who provokes unrest, discord, hatred and slander etc. However, in order not to let these negative energies get to you, and not to succumb to anger, grief, worry and hatred, there is only one possibility for the human being who is attacked, and that is to focus one's own thoughts and feelings on not taking the antagonist's attacks seriously, and to keep reminding oneself and saying that the thoughts, hatred, enmity, evil words and slander and machinations, etc. is the adversary's business alone, not one's own. So it is said, all attacks and problems of any kind from the hostile person are not mine, but solely their business, with which they harm themselves, and which they must deal with themselves. Attacks from others, whether through thoughts and feelings, through words, hatred, slander, or actions, must never be made one's own, because fundamentally they are a concern of the originators who must deal with them themselves. Through their attacks against fellow human beings, they harm themselves, because their machinations affect their own thoughts and feelings, making them restless and joyless within themselves, and causing them to fall prey to evil frustration. In general, attacks and problems of others must be disregarded and parried in such a way that they are the attacks and problems of one's adversaries, and not of one's own person. Only through this rational insight, and this way of thinking, feeling and acting can human beings protect themselves against the attacks, lies, accusations, hatred and slander etc. of others, because in fact all the evils and problems of such things are not those of the person themselves, but of the attackers and opponents. The attacks and problems of the other person are not my concern, but that of the attacker must be the constant motto for those who are attacked with words, thoughts, feelings, lies, problems, slander and actions, etc., and only by nurturing thoughts and feelings, as well as behavior in this way, can human beings free themselves from the image of their adversaries and truly be themselves. If a human being wants to be themselves, then they must also not practice enmity, even against their worst enemies and adversaries. Firstly, if the attacks and problems, etc. of the adversaries are not considered as one's own and rejected as such unto the attackers, then it is considered a further form to face the adversaries peacefully. This is to be done in such wise that they are met with kindness, love and peace, but also that mental and emotional wishes of love and blessing are sent to them on frequent occasions, and if possible daily. On the one hand, this prevents us from developing hostility towards our adversaries, and on the other hand, it provides valuable self-protection that prevents us from developing our own evil thoughts and feelings, and thus malice, hatred, or even a desire for revenge, etc., the whole thing also has the effect of generally benefiting one's own personality and character, and a completely neutral, positive and balanced attitude is built up from this. As a human being, you live, and as you live, you think, and what you think, that you are. This ancient wisdom is confirmed in the world of human thought and feeling, and in human actions. And if a human being truly and consciously strives to only as human beings, and not as enemies and adversaries, and not to make their attacks and problems their own, but to reject them back to their originators, while at the same time cultivating loving and peaceful thoughts for them, then all enmity will fade away, so that at the end of life only dear fellow human beings and even friends, but never enemies, remain. SSSC, February 5, 1980, 158 HRS, Billy.